Hello, everybody. Welcome to another wonderful installment of NPCs All Podcast. My name is Derek, one of your hosts, and I am joined by some wonderful human beings.
I'm Luke.
And I am Asa Green River.
My name's Sarah, or WitchyTwitchy.
Today's conversation, guys, is going to be that of Native American Heritage Month and all things gaming and pop culture that revolves around native things. Witchy, you are of Dene and Navajo, correct?
Well, Dene is our word for Navajo, so it's Dene, or commonly known as Navajo, yeah.
I am Numana, but most people know Numana as Comanche.
And I am a Massachusetts Native Praying Indian. And Luke, you are?
I technically don't qualify as Micmac. My grandfather got a DNA test. Happiest day of his life.
Oh, God.
But I
Everybody, what have we been playing? What have we been enjoying as of late?
With the
Disney
good
Dreamlight
peoples.
Valley has been what I've been super into lately, because it came out, a couple months ago? And man, it's so addicting. Like I'm into those games like Stardew Valley, and oh my god, it's like a drug. I was like,
I've been playing a ton of Marvel Snap because that's like, it's on my phone. It's something that I can play like whenever I want. Just get a couple matches in. If you like trading card games or any of those like Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, something like that, Marvel Snap is super easy and it makes me feel like a strategic genius. I've never lost, and I'm like, am I playing bots? I don't understand. Like, I'm not that good.
Oh my!
But
never lost. Huh?
I've never lost. I don't know. I've tied. I don't count that as a loss because it still says victory.
All right.
So I'm gonna take it.
How about you, Luke? What have you been playing and watching as of late?
my new thing is trying to watch like the lore videos to like gaming series that I never like understood. So like Tekken, I've played most of them, but I don't know what's going on. I have no idea why there's a panda in the middle of this, and I am so much better off now knowing.
What got you to start making content on Twitch?
So I actually started making content before making the jump to Twitch, and so I was making YouTube videos and podcasts, and basically Twitch was just like, hey, let's just add like. I almost completely made the switch over. Like I'll still make YouTube videos and podcasts like here and there, but I started making Twitch content around like 2017 and just have been doing it since. And I think like the biggest thing for me is just like the community, whether there's like 2 people in my chat or 20 people or 200, whatever, just like hanging out with people while playing games. It's like, whoever created Twitch, I don't know their story, but whoever came up with that idea like struck gold.
I did my first stream in the summer of 2014, and it was straight off PlayStation. This was back in the day when Twitch was only gaming. You would get in trouble for doing anything that wasn't video games. And you like PlayStation streaming, you stream directly from the PS4 with the like grainy little webcam, no chat, like no alerts, or like for reading chat you had to pull up, like I had a little crappy laptop to read while I was gaming, and I got started. My fiance was like, hey, you want to play this really scary game with me, and we stream it on this website called Twitch, and people like watch us get scared. And I was like, that sounds really weird. Sure. So I hopped on and I played Outlast. That was the first game I ever streamed.
Wow.
And
Wow, what a first game to jump into, huh?
yeah, it was a blast being able to talk to so many new people, and it was so fun. After that, I just fell in love with it on day one, and then here we are, like several years later, and I'm still here.
My question is to you guys is, with the ever-growing reach of Native American culture being celebrated in media in all ways, shapes, and forms, what is one Native story, albeit that be culturally in your culture, or just a native lore or anything else like that? What would you like to see either elaborated on a movie or a comic book or a video game? Is there anything that that you've thought of that's kind of been inside your head as a spark?
Educating people on Native history is really important to me because so many people have zero clue about anything that has happened. And so I'd really like to see more games incorporate like more stories of what has happened in recent history. It's tough because I want Native people to have representation in media that isn't just about our struggles. But at the same time, it's like I want more people to know about what happened historically, because they don't. So I'm kind of torn between like I would like more historical events, like even from my tribe, like lots of people don't know about what we went through on our long walk. But as far as like happy and fun games, I think it would be really cool to see some of our Navajo story, like our stories are so beautiful and oh my gosh, it would like, it'd be really cool to be able to see those worked into whether it's a video game or comic. But I actually think there's a Navajo digital artist who's coming out with a comic book soon about some of our creation stories. I'm so excited to read it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I the one thing you said about history in itself, it's something that's not really taught very much in great abundance throughout any U.S. school system. Like I can go into high school right now, walk into a classroom and be like, can you name half of the people that sat around the table, prior after Thanksgiving? Can you all those pivotal people that helped shape Massachusetts history? And not one person would be able to go ahead and name it because history is written by the breadwinners. And unfortunately, we were not the breadwinners at all. We were more or less treated like a nuisance, if anything. So we kind of, get sprinkled over. And it's really nice to see things being told in media, albeit that be, historical pain or our tragedy, whatever it may be. I think that in the form, even in testament, like what happened on Twitch when you posted that video, you posted a piece of media out there, and the reception of it was insane. If people watch Rutherford Falls or Res Dogs and they get an entire perspective of how life is lived differently, I think that is a beautiful thing that we are able to do and able to express, that we're in a medium that people can consume very naturally. And I think that's a very special thing. So I hope that in the future, maybe they do talk about that in Navajo stories, or they bring the story of creation into comic books or other mediums, because I think that is very important to keep alive. It's telling a story. It's telling your story, your people's story.
It's tough because, like, I agree. Like, there's so many stories that I want to see. I just interviewed Frank Wan, and we talked about music and like its importance in our culture. And I recommend. Sorry, I don't plug my own stuff. It's amazing conversation, and
Plug
Frank
all
is
day.
so incredibly knowledgeable. Go watch that. He's an amazing human being. But he had told me, like, he was telling me about all of these musicians that were native, and I had no idea. And like one of them was Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix was a native man?
What was his
I was like,
give it a Googs. Give it a Googs right now.
like,
What? Dude, you just dropped a bomb.
And but apparently he was very proud of it, and he like had a picture of his grandmother, who was like, super native woman. But it's just like it's never a publicized thing. We need to have like documentaries and just all these things, like talking about all these people who have strong native histories and roots and family, but just it gets completely overlooked. So like I want more bombs like that dropped on me, so I can like be like, oh my gosh, I love you even more now. And then like on a more like personal level, like I would love to see something about Quanah Parker, who is one of the war leaders of the Quahati band of the Comanche Nation, because I'm also like, I'm Quahati. So like, I would love to see something about Quanah Parker. I haven't seen Prey yet. It's very much on my list, and I'm going to watch it. And
I saw that bomb that was dropped on you from Witchy on your podcast over there on their episode where I think it was someone said in your chat that it was done in Comanche. That it was.
You can watch it in Comanche, and I'm like,
watch it in Comanche. How amazing is that?
That's like, so nuts.
And I feel like this is going to sound silly because as a people as a whole, we're completely overlooked. But I feel like if you look at the great nations, I feel like I personally don't remember growing up seeing a lot about Comanche. Like it overall like represented. So like when I saw that in Prey, it was in Comanche. I was like, are you kidding me? And I had people messaging me like, did you see this? Did you know? So like I want to see more Comanche stories.
On the topic of it being in Comanche, I had the same reaction whenever I found out that Finding Nemo was in Navajo, and it makes me think like Star Wars: A New Hope is in Navajo, and I told you guys a couple days ago, I had gotten to show my grandmother she loves Star Wars, and I got to show her the Navajo version for the first time. I got to watch it with her, and knowing that when she was little, there were boarding schools still actively in practice and telling her that she couldn't speak her language. And going from that as a child to now, like our languages are being preserved in movies like Finding Nemo and Star Wars and other languages, like Prey. It's one of my favorite things. It really is.
I would love to see like a George Lopez show where it's just treated normal that people are native, and like you don't ignore issues that are happening, but don't pretend like whenever there's, and this is more in the bigger movies, but it's always some big deal that somebody has to be native or indigenous. Like it just is. It's normal. They have stories and they can tell those stories. Like I just want normality.
Yeah, like the story isn't based around them. Like they're not in the movie because like, you know, the protagonist needs like some like native spiritual journey or whatever god. Like they're just a normal person being native. That's the fun, like most fun part to see in some shows. Like I don't know if you guys have heard about Wendell and Wild that came out recently on Netflix.
Yes. Oh my god, it's so good. The animation
is so good. Did you see Miss Hunter?
I'm freaking out. Oh my god.
Like, and I had no idea that they were gonna have a native character in it, and like she was just there. Like they didn't make a big deal about it. It wasn't like she was just there, and I was like, oh my god, like freaking out. I was so happy.
Yeah, so great. The first the first 15 minutes of the movie, they go in and drop her right in there. You're like,
paused, and I was like,
yeah. When she said fry bread recipe, I was like, oh my god, that confirmed it. I was talking yesterday. I was like, something that I would love to see, you know, is a TV show that almost takes the contrast of the problems or issues that or contentions that a native would have nowadays and compare that to the same type of contentions and problems that would have in the past. Like imagine like two young kids find a medicine wheel somewhere deep out in the woods, and then they were like, oh my god, this smells like sage inside these shells, and they light sage in all the different, you know, 4 directions. It gets sucked into a portal. Now they're living in the 1600s, the 1500s, and like they gotta like see what those struggles are and like get to learn from their ancestors in a way that is very personal. I think that's something that would be a beautiful thing, because there's nothing better than sitting down with an elder or sitting down with, you know, somebody who knows your stories, and you get to feel that spiritual connection of just once was, and that is a beautiful thing. And I think that would be something really cool to see, a connection inside of a piece of media. But so I have to ask this question, very, very curious on what you guys think, just because I think some video games take from this. This is a video game gear question, but what video game do you think has done justice representing the native people?
Never Alone.
Respect.
Never Alone is one of my all-time favorite games. So if you guys haven't played it, it's a little side-scroller puzzle platformer, and it's based on Inupiat stories. It's about a little Inupiat girl who, like how I said, we have our Navajo stories and stuff. She has to go on this quest to save her village from a big blizzard and find the source of the blizzard. And it's based on a story that their tribe tells. But in the game, as you're going along and like, you know, solving the puzzles to progress, you can find little glowing orbs. And when you collect them, they unlock these things called cultural insights. And they're interviews with elders and other members of the community who will like talk about different aspects of the story and how they like different aspects of the game and how it relates to real life oral history of their tribe, or teaching about different aspects of the tribe that you just played or saw in game. And the fact that they heavily incorporated their elders into that video game and lent them a voice, and also are preserving their words via media, is just, it's everything.
I want to talk about Rainbow Six Siege and how they executed the operator Thunderbird during one of Ubisoft's, like one of their forwards, where they just go through like different announcements, and they announced this new operator called Thunderbird. And I saw the name, and at first I was like, ooh, all right, here we go. But they did like this whole interview piece where they actually talked to people from Saskatchewan territories, like specifically talked about how she's Nakota, and like they actually pulled elders and they pulled historians, and like they did this whole thing. And I was like, I was tweeting about it, and I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? This like
I had no
never
idea.
happened.
Yeah, I had no
Like,
idea. That's nuts.
To see like a major like AAA game put in a native character and actually like do it right. They did the research, like they put it in, like she has the tattoos, and they talked about like why she has them and her origins, and the actress is native as well. And I'm like, this is
That's amazing. I have
That's a big
oh my
win.
this
God.
is how you incorporate it. Like this is how you pull it in. So
Mhm.
I think honestly, more games could do that, but I was like, huge props to Ubisoft and to the Rainbow Six team for first of all putting in a very obviously indigenous character,
Yeah.
but then also like saying, hey, this is why we did it, and this is her people, and this is the background about those people. And I was like,
I don't really have a great answer for this, which is kind of why I wanted to be, part of this podcast. Is I want to learn more about like what games I should play.
Mhm.
But one thing I do appreciate is the Wendigo has become like a normal part of culture now, and I like that it just shows up in games.
I'm very conflicted on that. Like my like Navajos are struggling with the similar kind of thing. So we have creatures in our stories that are kind of similar to that, but it's very it's related to our tribe and in our oral history and stories, but people have started turning it into this like trend, especially on like TikTok and other social media, where
Yeah.
one, they have no idea what they're talking about. Like they think it's just a synonym for shapeshifter or something. And so they're talking about these things and turning it into trends and like, oh, I spotted this creature in a YouTube video, like making up this stuff and like capitalizing off of it when they don't even know what tribe those stories actually come from, where like they don't know the stories that they originate from. They have no like respect or they have no clue. They're not educated on it, and so they're just turning it into this like another version of that creature from the northern tribes. Like I have an issue with that, and I'm like, I know a lot of people have the same feeling towards the creatures from northern tribes.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to lore, and then you have a lot of media that also redefines it. Like, if I'm correct, there's a mutant called Wendigo in the X-Men.
yeah,
Like that is that, and it's like a bad guy that fights multiple different creatures. But that in itself epitomized the story, very similar to like how the Yeti would be, a story, whatever. That's like Tibetan type of stuff, in their lore, and definitely finds a way to translate it in a way that it's just going to be appealing to a mass crowd without really understanding where the origin of that is. And I think that's important. Like you could take something like the Wendigo and take something like even like Rainbow Six. They took something and they fully elaborated on it to go ahead and give the proper recognition to where that comes from. And the same could be said about the Witchuge or the Thunderbird or there's so many different creatures out there in lore that get taken in different ways and utilized in a manner that is just to go ahead and tell a story. But I think that's something that's important. Like you mentioned Luke, it's the Wendigo. That is something that gets mentioned a lot. But I think that there's contextually there needs to be more elaborated on. When it comes
like
to
can
these
people who
things.
know what that creature is tell you what tribes the stories originated from or what region, or like it's being taken. It's another thing, in my opinion, it's another thing that's being taken from our different native cultures without any type of education around it or teaching where it comes from or like the true story, like the stories behind it. And so I have an issue with stuff like that. But that's just me.
Well, and I was an indigenous consultant with this game called Weird West. It was published by Devolver Digital, and amongst a plethora of issues when it came to indigenous representation, like the Wendigo was like a big bad enemy in there, and it wasn't done properly. It was what do we talk about? Which it was like they basically just kind of like took this blanket approach and just said, it just comes from tribes to the north, and it wasn't specific. There wasn't anything. I don't necessarily want to say special, like there wasn't anything like shared about it. It was just like, hey, here's the Wendigo, comes from tribes of the north, and then it was just like, now look at this grotesque monster. It's basically like they just kind of like threw in that mild backstory just so they could use the Wendigo, and that was like That was my feedback. I was like, this feels like you're just putting this in here because you want to use this monster.
Because it's
Yeah.
scary and mysterious.
yeah.
Like throwing Native American in there makes it just seem so much more like cool and spiritual and spooky. And it's like you guys can just make up your own scary shapeshifter monsters. You don't have to like slap Native American stories onto it when you don't even understand what like the actual stories that come from. Yeah. And my favorite thing, sarcastically, it's one of my least favorite things, is like for my tribe, like I said, our creatures and stories that are becoming this trend are from the Southwest, because that's where our stories, obviously it's where we are. And then you've got now people who are like in frickin', I don't know, across the country in like Virginia, who are like, spooky creature spotted, and I'm like, no, you didn't, Connor. You live in Virginia. Like, calm down. You don't even know what you're talking about. Like, it was probably like a deer who got hit by a car. Like, relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just hope that people take interest seeing it, but maybe, you know, maybe I'm being.
I get where you're coming from, Luke, and
Yeah.
what I attribute it to is like kids who are in school these days and they get the really crappy history books, and even though it's like all the wrong information, it still piques their interest to learn more, and now it's an opportunity to actually learn the right side of history.
What does Native American Heritage Month mean to you guys?
I'm gonna say one word but then expand on it. So to me it's an excuse, but I mean that in a very like serious way, because like people are kind of, you know, they're one way or the other when it comes to Valentine's Day, right? Like basically with Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, things like that, it's like an excuse to have a day just to celebrate a relationship, to celebrate a person. You should do it all year round, but here is a special day for you. So like you should be celebrating Native and Indigenous peoples all year round. Like you should have us on your stuff all the time. But in November, this is your excuse to just go ham with it. Like you shouldn't have anybody else as a guest. You should have Native and Indigenous people, because there's plenty of us, as we've seen the past couple days, the past couple years, there's plenty of us. Have us on your stuff. If you don't know who to talk to, pick one person and ask. Like I've had people say, "Hey, who should I have on my podcast?" And I just
even
send them
asked you
like,
stuff like that.
yeah, like I'll send you a bunch of names, go ask them, because they would be perfect. So like this is the month, just like with all of the heritage months, to celebrate that culture. Even though you should do it year round, here is the designated time for, if you suck at it all year, you better go hard in November.
Absolutely. How about you, Witchy?
For me, I guess it means something different to non-native people, and then it means something different to native people. And I guess Asa kind of addressed what it can mean for non-native people. So for me, for us, it's a time to strengthen and remember who you are, find ways to serve your community and your people, and give back and be unapologetically yourself, and remind people that we're still here. Like be as loud and annoying and in your face as you want to be, because like you said, it's an excuse and a reason like to do that, because we're so easily ignored every other month of the year. So it's like we have 30 days to where we can be like, hey guys, here's a perfect reason for us to remind you that we're still here, we've not gone anywhere, and you don't have to ignore us. Hello.
Yeah, I like the answer of excuse, because as much as I would like to hate to, you know, admit it, be like, oh, it's 100% of a positive thing. You know, it is what it is. It's a way of recognizing, and I think that's important. And recognition is and being acknowledged, I think, is very important. I think the way that my brain, I think I got like the elder mindset, which is like, my kids have something that I never had growing up. This will always be their month. There'll always be a month for them to celebrate whoever they are. They want to wear their regalia to school and be 100% proud of it and have the kids ask, yeah, go for it, honey. Like, you know, let them know who you are and what you are. And I think that's important. But at the end of the day, you know, we don't stop being Native American at the end of November. You know, like we're still there, and we try to do our best to go to powwows, to, you know, have days to make crafts, beadwork, or, you know, maybe go hunting with the uncles up in New Hampshire or whatever. Like just something that connects us all together. And I think Native American Heritage Month is, in a sense, it's an excuse to glorify us. But at the exact same time, I think that it's something that is a beautiful thing that we do have. And I mean, look what's come of it. You know, like, yes, it may have been an excuse, but at the end of the day, look what we've done. Look at who we are. Look at where we are. We're having a podcast right now with two people I would never think that I would ever have the chance of meeting in my entire life. And this led to this. I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, many people, you know, albeit that be in chat, albeit that be, you know, on TikTok or any other social media period, you know, approaching us can always be difficult. People can be very hesitant to ask questions to people like us because they're afraid of retaliation or they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. What is one thing you would give as a gift to the viewer watching today that might help them understand more about our peoples?
Here's my gift. Just ask. I just flat out, anytime somebody DMs me and they ask me a question like, hey, what should I do about this? How do I learn about this? I always start off with, thank you for asking, because nobody freaking asks. Mm-hmm. Like, if you look at, you know, at the top of the show, you talked about how, like, you know, things are getting better. Like, we're still, as of the end of 2021, 0.6% representation, and that's film and TV combined. And now we have Rez, and now we have Rutherford. Like, we have these shows and we're starting to see more. We're still only 0.6% representation in all of film and TV. Mm-hmm. So, like, is if you look at, like, big picture, nobody asks, like, nobody represents us. So that's my gift. It's okay to ask. Just do it, because that shows that you actually care. So
yeah,
for me, I do get asked, but I don't get asked. I get asked stuff like, I had a hawk fly into my house and it left feathers outside in my yard. What does it mean? And I'm like, that it didn't see where it was going. Like, so I get asked, so don't ask me stuff like that, because I'll screenshot it and laugh at you. But, like, when it comes to, like, I get so many questions like that. Like, is it okay for me to make a dream catcher? I don't know. Why are you asking me? I'm Navajo. Like, so I guess before you reach out and ask those questions, for me, I would like you to examine and ask yourself, why am I asking the question I'm asking? Like, is it because you genuinely want to learn more about our culture and find ways to help? Or is it because you want to, like, you want some sort of, you want me to tell you some sort of significance about why a freaking hawk flew into your window? Like, I don't know. I that, for one, maybe that's more of a protection for me, because I'm so sick of getting questions like that. But also a gift. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
That's a very difficult thing to think about, because it's like, what light can you shine on their perspective as they try to go ahead and ask questions to you, and it's difficult to gauge.
I guess, like, that is my answer. Be introspective about why you're asking the question that you're asking, and I feel like that will help you be able to more effectively word what the question that you're trying to ask. Like, figure out your motivation.
Yeah. I always say that I'm not that person that's looking for you to acknowledge, you know, Native pain, or to celebrate what history has done at this point, but you need to acknowledge it. I think that's my biggest thing. It's like, if the biggest gift I can go ahead and give to you is that if somebody talks about pain, if they talk about where they come from, or you're asking questions that are delving deep into subject matter of that context, you need to acknowledge that you're stepping into very sensitive waters. You know, you need to don't need to be sorry. No one wants to hear your sorries. Sorry's not going to bring back thousands of my people. You know, like, don't need that. What I need to know is that you understand where we've come from and how we've got here. And if you want to know more details on that, I will have no problem sharing that for you. But let's not just act like this is just some sort of bulletin that you can go ahead and ask questions to and just expect answers, because that's not what it's going to be. You need to know what came before so that you can understand more of what you can get out of the now.
I saw that Astro Bunny said Google is free. There's so many resources that Indigenous people have so kindly posted for free. That's another big one for me, because like I've posted book lists and stuff. Like, also, before you ask someone, make sure that they haven't already provided that information for free, because like as Native people, we do so much online activism. The question that you have is probably already out there already. And of course, it never hurts to ask. Well, it's a complicated topic. Like, if you follow a lot of Native activists online, you're probably going to have that question answered for you. So yeah, like if you make it a point to follow Native people already, sometimes you'll have your questions answered before you even realize that that's a question that you have.
Yeah. I think that, information, and this comes from, a place doing role play for as long as I have, and running a Native community that does research, and I try to tell them, it's like, not everything is on Google, like you got to understand that a lot of information comes in great context from talking to a person who's either from the res that you're doing the research on the tribe of, or from a certain place that is a part of that tribe. They know resources that are genuinely good resources to get. Like, for example, Juby threw at us a book that is probably one of the best books for learning Lakota. And there's a bunch of websites that are like, go ahead and throw a word in here. We'll try to go ahead and do our best to sum it up. And it's like literally taking 3 different clans' languages and smashing it all together and being like, here you go. That is not genuine. And that's the worst part. That's out there for like anybody to go ahead and see. But I think it's very important to get source material. Like, read a book. But know who your author is. Like, don't just look at the title and be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, no, who's writing that? Because like, I can look at half of the accounts for anything that's happened inside of Massachusetts to any of the regional Native Americans in this state, and it's like half of it's all written from accounts of white people. That's not realistically. You need to know who is taking that information in and how genuine that information is, and then go from there. I think it's super important. Thank you, Indigenous people, for being who you are. My name was Derek from Atop DerekMountain.
I was Luke.
I'm Witchy.
And this was NPCs all. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.